you don't mind, I'll tell another quick story. Let's do it.
Fire
I
away.
got another one that this one. So somebody bootlegged, like filmed a portion of this live show I did last year, which is fine. I'm not going to do anything about it. Because anyway, so there's a portion they filmed where I got to see on this video the actual reaction to this one particular reveal. And it was like so much. It was way more than the lamp, frankly. This one, because it's so weird. Anyways, I haven't prepped this one, but I know it really well, so I can get it close.
Hit it.
All right, so it was in 2011, and there's this woman named Ellie Lobel. She's 42 years old, and she decided, I think it was December 11th, 2011, she decided, enough is enough, it's time for me to die. So Ellie, her background was she was brilliant. I mean, she went to an Ivy League school, I think it was. She had her PhD by 18, and then she got into, I think, consulting. I forget what her job was, but it was like a hyper successful woman, like hyper successful, killing it, like crazy salary. But she came down with this mysterious illness sometime in her, I want to say her 30s, I think early 30s. So she's 42. It was late 20s. She comes down with this illness, and she's married. She's got kids. She lives in Southern California, and it wasn't like the illness. The doctors didn't even know what the illness was. She was just like fatigued, and she didn't feel that good, but there was nothing specific. And so every time she would go to the doctors would run a battery of tests and basically say, oh, you're low on this vitamin, or you need more sunlight, or you need this, you need that. Like there wasn't anything specific. It was just kind of this malaise she had where she just always felt kind of down. But for years and years, she just always felt terrible, and it started affecting her career, and she had to step back from her career. And then actually she got this like horrible divorce with her husband, who frankly, if I'm being candid, sounds like he was kind of a jerk, because he immediately was like, all right, I'm out of here now that you're sick. So they split up, and so she's raising her kids on her own. She's got this chronic illness, and it's getting worse. Not in leaps and bounds, but it's definitely not improving. She's becoming more and more ill. She's spending more days in bed. And so finally, come December 11th, 2011, by this point, her kids have moved out of the house. They are, successful. They're in their 20s. They have their partners. They have their jobs, and she's still single, and she's just at the end of her ability to cope with whatever was going on with her. And she decided, you know what, I'm done. I want to go die. And so she actually hired an end-of-life care person. I forget the title. I forget specifically what this job is, but you can hire people to basically be with you while you die, like you end your life. And for what it's worth, it's important to note that by this point in 2011, doctors had told her that like your organs are actually starting to shut down. And frankly, if you were to kind of mentally let go, there's a pretty good chance your body would shut down. Like it's kind of on you at this point to keep going. And so she thought, I'll go to an Airbnb in a beautiful part of California, and I will literally just stay in the house until I die. Like not going to get water, not going to get food. I'm going to just stay in my bed till I die.
With this person.
Yes. She didn't tell her family. This was like, and she's just miserable, she just wants it to be over. And so she didn't tell her family. She like left him a note or something. And so she goes to this little Airbnb in this random town, and it's Southern California, I forget where. And, she arrives at the house. She doesn't explore the town or anything. She's met up with her end-of-life care person, and they go in this house, and Ellie just climbs. She can't even walk. The end-of care person is helping her walk. She gets in bed, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna die now. For 3 days, she laid in that bed, and she didn't die. And she felt horrible, and she felt like things are getting worse, but she's not dying. And she decided, you know what, I'm just going to go take a quick walk and then come back and die. Like, it's pretty bizarre. It's
a usual Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. And so she asks her end-of-life care person to come with her on a walk, because she actually had not even seen the town she was in. She basically just went into her bed. And so they leave this house. It's a beautiful sunny day. And, she's holding on to her end-of-life care person. And he sees this really big guy. And they're walking down the sidewalk, and on their side is this beautiful field of flowers. And, there's a little wood rail post fence between them and the field. And it's like just beautiful and sunny. And for a second, Ellie she stops and just stares out at this field, and she's taken with just how beautiful it is. Now, this did not inspire her to want to live, because she still wants it to end, but she's struck by this moment. For the first time in a while, I'm seeing something truly beautiful, and that's all. It's like wonderful. But as she's staring at this field, she begins to hear a buzzing sound, and she looks above her and she sees there's a bee over her head, which is not cause for concern. There are bees everywhere, so be it. But this bee was not a normal bee. This bee was an African killer bee, so it's like a huge hornet. And when it dawned on her that this is like, I should probably get away from this thing, it came down and began stinging her. And she's practically immobile. And at the same time, she's like screaming. Her end-of-life care person just turns and starts running, like left her on the side of the road. She can't even walk. And this was not just one bee. There was a whole horde of African killer bees that were just over this field. And I guess they signaled to come over, and a whole swarm came over to Ellie, and they stung her over, and hundreds of times. She can't go anywhere. So basically, when they stopped stinging mostly her face for about 5-10 minutes, they flew off, and she's just laying on the ground. And she's alive, but in excruciating pain. And by this point, her end-of-life care person, who has completely abandoned her, now he comes back and he scoops her up. And as he's running with her, all she thinks to say is, "Don't take me to the hospital." Because at this point, she's like, "This will kill me. The bee stings will kill me." And so he runs her all the way back to the house and says, "Fine, I'm not gonna bring you to the hospital, even though you've been horribly stung, and I'm at least partially to blame." And so Ellie climbs back in bed. And now she's thinking, I'm going to die. Now it's either it's whatever's going on with me or the bee stings. But 3 more days go by and she doesn't die. And in fact, she actually begins to feel better. For the first time in like 15 years, Ellie Lobel can sit up on her own. She could sit up 15 years earlier, but of late, she couldn't even sit up. Now she can sit up and she can get on her feet. She can walk around on her own. She's like, what's going on here? Now, Ellie she was an incredibly smart woman, very, pragmatic, and she did not think, "Oh, I'm cured. Everything's great now." She's like, there's something going on. I want to research this. What happened? Necessary context. So here's a quick break to understand what happens next. So right before Ellie got sick, so 15 years earlier, when she began to feel this feeling she was getting, she had gone out for a hike and near her house, and she'd come back and she had noticed she had this little mark on the inside of her thigh. She figured it was a bug bite, didn't think much of it, but she knew she got bit by something, but hadn't really registered if it had anything to do with her illness. But it turned out she got bit by a tick, and a deer tick that had Lyme disease. And when they bite you, they leave a very distinctive mark on wherever they bit you. It looks like a bullseye. And it stood out to her at the time that she had this kind of bullseye-looking mark on her leg, but she just didn't put it together. It would turn out she had Lyme disease. That was the thing that was affecting her for those 15 years. And Lyme disease, if you catch it early and you treat it early, it's totally curable. If you wait and you let it develop, it is not something that can necessarily be cured. And in rare cases, it can absolutely be fatal. And she's 15 years in. She's deeply immersed in Lyme disease. And so she actually came to know that around the time she got to the house in California. She was aware that she had Lyme disease, right? So I'm filling in some gaps here for you. So she knows she has Lyme disease. She knows there's nothing she can do about it. She's now been stung by a bunch of bees and she's feeling pretty good. She hops online and she does some research about bee stings. And she discovered an obscure study done in the 1990s in Australia about the effects of the toxin in African killer bees and other types of bees and its effects on Lyme disease patients. And they made this hypothesis that a certain amount of bee stings from African killer bees, in theory, could cure Lyme disease, but it was an unethical study and they couldn't do it because it would involve swarming killer bees on a critically ill Lyme disease patient. But Ellie Lobel unintentionally conducted the experiment on herself, and it completely cured her Lyme disease. 100% healthy now. She tours the world talking about the positive effects of getting stung by bees.
Dude.
Crazy, right?
Wow. That's insane. I mean, first off, whoever that end-of-life care person, come on.
You didn't do it. Too committed to it.
Here's an interesting question. Was it ethical or unethical to leave her? Given that by leaving her, she ended up her life was saved.
I mean, if she had been pulled away after one sting, it would not have worked. So I'm sure she's like, thanks.
It's a mixed bag. Probably not going to invite them to kind of save someone from a burning building. But that is crazy.
And so when you watch the video of that, I have this pause where I know I'm about to say the big, she was cured completely. And it was like the audience was so stoked. It was like the coolest moment of the show. And it was captured on film. So it was very cool.
In other news, this episode is brought to you by Element. You'll have heard me talking about Element an awful lot over the last few months, and that's because I start my day every single morning with it. You might not be tired, you might not need more caffeine, you might just be dehydrated. An Element contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio of sodium, potassium, and magnesium that helps to curb cravings, regulate your appetite, and improve your brain function. Stop having caffeine first thing in the morning. Your adenosine system that caffeine acts on isn't even active for the first 90 minutes of the day, but your adrenal system is, and salt acts on your adrenal system. Best of all, it tastes phenomenal. It's a beautiful, sweet, salty drink, and the orange version is my favorite. Also, there is a no BS, no questions asked refund policy, so you can buy it 100% risk-free. And if you do not like it for any reason, they will give you your money back, and you don't even need to return the box. That's how confident they are that you'll love it. You can get a free sample pack of all 8 flavors with your first box by going to the link in the show notes below or heading to drinklmnt.com/modernwisdom. That's drinklmnt.com/modernwisdom.